eras. In this episode, we covered 3 different Spider-Man stories. Each one relates to the upcoming film Spider-Man: No Way Home. Which ones did the film draw from, and which ones are best for new readers? I'm Dane, and I covered Spider-Man Back in Black. The Blerd Without Fear covered Spider-Man One More Day, and Questing Refuge covered Spider-Verse. Let's swing into it. Hello and welcome to the channel. My name is Dane, and I'm here with Willow from Questing Refuge and Ernie, the Blerd Without Fear, and we're talking about the three different eras of Spider-Man in relation to the upcoming film Spider-Man No Way Home, which this is conveniently timed because we just got the trailer last night, and I assume y'all both watched that.
Oh yeah.
And so we had chosen 3 different runs periods in from Spider-Man history. Look pretty recent, all 3 of them, but they all kind of somewhat relate to what it seems like is going to be happening in No Way Home. So we've got I'm on the Back in Black run arc, which takes place what came out in 2007, post Marvel Civil War. It's dealing with the fallout from that and the fallout of Spider-Man's secret identity being revealed to the world, which he did in the Civil War arc. And then that leads directly into Ernie's arc, which is One More Day, the infamous One More Day.
Terribly infamous.
Terribly infamous. Yeah. It's famous for a lot of bad reasons in most people's eyes. I've talked to a couple of people that like it. I didn't talk to them ever again, but no.
they were wrong.
Yeah. I just blocked them immediately and moved on. No. And then Willow is on the more recent Spider-Verse. And Willow, I'll let you talk about it, but you're a big fan of the Spider-Verse animated film. Who isn't really? But so I was excited for you to be able to read that book that it was based on somewhat. Yeah, I covered Back in Black by J. Michael Straczynski and Ron Garney. Yes, came out between April and October 2007. Amazing Spider-Man 539 through 543. Spider-Man's dealing with the fallout of having his identity public, and the Civil War has ended, but everybody still knows that he's Peter Parker now. He revealed his identity kind of in solidarity with Iron Man and the Superhero Registration Act, and he thought it was the right thing to do at the time. Turns out that was not a great thing, but as we've seen at the end of Spider-Man Far From Home, similar situation happened as different circumstances, but now everybody knows that Spider-Man is Peter Parker, which leads to No Way Home and decisions it seems like he makes that also make things worse for him. It's a really great run. I was excited to look back on this. It's been years since I read it, but I remember when it was coming out, I was just completely compelled by every single issue. I was excited to get to the shop every week and read it because it's such a unique take on Spider-Man and Peter Parker without being out of character. It would take pretty specific circumstances to get Spider-Man to be as mean as he is in this run or this arc. But those circumstances happened in which Kingpin, after everybody knows that he is Peter Parker, Kingpin, who's in prison at the time, hires an assassin to kill Peter Parker. What ends up happening though is Peter grabs MJ and moves jumps out of the way, and the bullet hits Aunt May, and she ends up in a coma in the hospital, and pretty much the prognosis is she's not going to make it. And so he goes and digs out his old black costume, to kind of signify, I'm not your friendly neighborhood Spider-Man right now. And he goes on to beat the ever-loving crap out of Kingpin, and it's one of the most glorious moments in comic book history, in my opinion. Just absolutely fantastic. What did you think about One More Day, which comes pretty directly after that, I believe?
Yes, because you're pretty much dealing with fallout from Back in Black, which as you just pointed out, the Kingpin's assassination attempt ends up catching Aunt May instead. She catches the bullet, and you're basically spending the next and this is with One More Day. You're looking at Amazing Spider-Man number 544. Sensational Spider-Man number 41, and Friendly Neighborhood Spider-Man 24, Amazing Spider-Man number 545, which is where the real shenanigans start to take place. But basically what he's trying to do is Spidey is trying to reach out to anyone who he thinks can help him. He's trying to get people to help him to try and find a way to save Aunt May. The doctors are all saying, yeah, man, she's a goner. It's a wrap. You can go ahead and cancel Christmas. This is not going to be a thing. She's done. She's donezo. But Peter, I think if I the way some of this stuff kind of breaks down, like he ends up getting into altercations with Iron Man over this. He ends up getting to because he for all intents and purposes he blames Iron Man now. For why people know who he is in the first place. This is all he knows. This is a direct result of his identity being out. He ends up even trying to get Doctor Strange to help him, but Doctor Strange can't save Aunt May because, as far as the natural order of things goes, she's supposed to die here. Like this is it for her. So he can't change anything. And Peter even actually goes out of his way to try to use the magic himself, like even because apparently as you work in the field of science, you pick up some Latin, whatever. He actually ends up using some of Doctor Strange's magic to try to intervene, but he can't. He learns when he tries to go back in the past, all he can do is just watch. So he winds up torturing himself even more. And
how very Peter Parker of him, right?
Right? like literally, when you think about the most Peter Parker thing you could ever do, I can't think of too many more things that would be more Peter Parker than that. But we even meet some characters who, at first, they don't seem like anybody like terribly important. But then you realize that he's actually interacting with like alternate reality versions, like possible future versions of himself, like a future where he ends up not becoming Spider-Man. He ends up kind of basically becoming, I don't know. I kind of feel like I was attacked. He was just some schlubby, chubby dude sitting in a chair playing video games and eating Cheetos and drinking Mountain Dew all day. I felt a little attacked there. But then we also see there's another reality where he could have become like basically the next Tony Stark, or something like that. And what it all kind of plays down into is that the only person who seems willing to help Spider-Man fix his problem is Mephisto. Mephisto is the only one who's like, yeah, I mean, I can hook you up. I mean, I got this, but it's going to cost you.
Right.
He hits him with the old plumber adage. It can cost you a little. It can cost you a lot, but it will cost you. And basically what he wants is Peter and Mary Jane, MJ's marriage. He wants to basically wipe it from the space-time continuum because it's so important to him. And and nothing changes other than that. Like everything else happens exactly the way it originally happened. There's no, oh my God, we changed this, so this means this didn't happen to Spider-Man. Spider-Man didn't do this. He did no, just the one thing. Boom.
So, maybe I'm mistaken. I thought that the secret identity thing was also rolled up in that.
Yes, the whole secret identity. Yes. So basically what he wants is, in order to get to, because basically what he's trying to do is undo the damage from the reveal of the secret identity.
Okay. Yeah.
And what's basically happening here is he's like, okay, I can put the genie back in the bottle, but everything else is going to be exactly like all the other stuff, all your other life's choices. Just the one thing that won't happen is you will have never married Mary Jane. Matter of fact, I think by the time you get to the final pages in Amazing Spider-Man number 545, at least as far as that story is concerned, they pretty much almost it's almost as if they never met. Like they're vague acquaintances at best.
Yeah.
It is just like, huh. All because Joe Quesada couldn't believe that a nerd like Peter Parker couldn't
Yeah.
nab a babe like Mary Jane Watson.
Well, we'll get into the editorial side in just a bit.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Oh, that was the other thing. They also revealed that the child they would have had, which I believe would have been named Mary Jane, would have been named Mary Jane. That child's never born.
Of course,
the child that they would have had, because they never met, would never have been born. And of course, the child that we see throughout the comic, that is apparently the projection of what that child would have been or whatever. It gets crazy. It's a dumb story.
It's a dumb story. Well, yeah, no, like I said, man, I really appreciate you taking one for the team. I was, the premise of this show is like, well, let's look at 3 things that relate to, the newest movie or show or whatever, and see what we can suss out. And I was trying to think, well, oh shit, one more day, man. That's one of them, huh?
Well, I got excited because when you brought it up, I was like, oh, you mean I get to read Brand New Day? I like that story.
Oh yeah.
Oh wait, you meant One More Day. Never mind.
Yeah. Sorry to put you through it again, man. I know it's okay. Nobody loves to revisit this.
Honestly, the Clone Saga hurt me worse. So
true.
Yeah,
at least it's interesting because without having I don't know anything about any of these. So, but just hearing the bits you're talking about, hearing some of the recent stories, obviously the new Spider-Man movies, but also it also made me think of the What If episode with Doctor Strange. There's this kind of crossover where you can see all these ideas. They've been done similarly in this way, so it's really interesting for me to hear, though. Sorry it was so painful and the execution or how they did it. But...
Hey, well, you know what though? Looking at it right now, Quesada was on point with the art, though. I mean, I don't always love his style either, but this looks pretty cool.
His art's actually really honestly, the art is the best part of the comic.
Yeah,
the art, everything that's happening in here. And I will say this, because I've been kind of shitting on this. But there is one good thing in it, aside from the art, from a story perspective. It's the interactions between Mary Jane and Peter. The way that they talk to each other, the way that they're trying to figure out how to get past this, how whether or not they should accept Mephisto's deal, or what are they going to do? How are they going to overcome this? Are they going to be able to go through with this plan, this decision?
Well,
is
cool.
It that part is great. Right. Yeah. She's in on it.
Pretty interesting. Nice.
Yeah. That's what I remember from it, from reading it when it came out, was when I think about it, I think about, the moment that they make the deal, but then the lead up of them just debating it. And I remember very clearly that, he say what you will about Quesada's decision, he did try to treat it with some respect, I think.
Right. There was some reverence to it. There was some reverence because it is one of them. I mean, let's be real. It's probably, I would dare say it's the most famous superhero couple, short of Superman and Lois. Yeah. Superman and Lois is probably the only superhero couple that I would put above Spider-Man and Mary Jane as far as just pure just icon status. The closest the closest third being Reed Richards and Sue. Sue Storm. That's just how iconic that relationship is. And I did appreciate they and Peter, he tried, he wanted Mary Jane to be a part of the decision. He didn't want, I think a point says, it's I couldn't do this alone. I would not be able to live with this decision if you weren't involved in it. And I was like, dude, okay, at least we're giving a female character some agency here. We're not just being I'm gonna need you to calm down, MJ. Your womanly hormones are going to complicate this.
Sit over there. The men are talking.
Right. If this was written in the 1980s, he would have slapped her, and he was he's sit down. I'm the me and Satan here speaking. The real driving force behind America. That's what would have happened. But I'm glad that wasn't the case.
Absolutely.
I'm glad MJ actually had something to do. She wasn't just, I don't know what's happening. And yeah, those parts were great. It's honestly, the story's borderline really good until you get to that last issue.
That moment, yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
All right. Well, We'll get back into it. Willow, as I said at the beginning, Willow is a huge fan of Spider-Verse, and if you watched the first episode of this series, Willow was on that with us as well, and they are pretty new to comics. So, but Spider-Verse, Into the Spider-Verse, the animated film is definitely probably one of your favorite movies, right?
Oh yeah, it's got to be one of my favorite all-time movies. It's been a while. It was one of the first movies in a long time where I was like immediately like I'm watching this a lot. I don't usually go back and rewatch as much anymore, but man, that movie was just fantastic. It's still great. Like every time I watch it,
It's a
there's more to
tearjerker.
appreciate it. Yeah, it just has so much going on. But yeah, so it was really exciting. You had mentioned a little bit about stuff that happened in the comics before with this. But yeah, it was a great read. On many levels. I mean, mostly it was just fun because you get to see all these things that I might have vague notions of from things. And so just meeting so many different variations of Spider-Man and the clones, and there's a lot going on. And the inheritors
Yeah.
were kind of interesting. And honestly, it's kind of funny because I reading through it digitally, the way they do it, like right, you go through like the main arc, and then it kind of does it retraces kind of where you're seeing all like the side stories to, like it fills it out a little more.
Mhm.
And that actually for me, like I really like the initial story, but some of the side stuff like actually like teared me up quite a bit. Like some of the stuff with the inheritors and Karn was
Yeah.
really touching,
Mhm.
honestly. Like so that kind of blew me away. But yeah, I super loved it. It was mostly just, I hope that the movie. I mean, we'll see. I'm not expecting they'll dive too much in that aspect, but I do really enjoy the There was a lot of moments here where you meet different like crucial, I guess, Spider-Man that feels like it really, because you have the diversity of the characters and seeing the different things they've been through or different decisions, the way they approach things. It's like you get to learn more about each one quite a bit through that. Like they get to kind of reflect on that, right? Like meeting another version of Ben Parker or these moments. I found that like really cool, where it's like because you have these kind of mirror versions of characters, it tells you more about each one. Like they're kind of learning about themselves through that. So I really love that kind of stuff. So I
Yeah.
thought that was really interesting.
So Karn is one of your favorites. What are your handful of favorite Spider-Man versions?
Okay, so probably, I mean, I guess the main ones definitely did stand out that are prevalent in this. Like, it was very interesting seeing Superior Spider-Man, I guess,
Hell yeah.
and
Mhm.
contrasted with some of the other ones. Some of the really fun ones, the way they revealed them, like the Cyborg Spider-Man and Spider, the monkey, Spider Monkey.
Oh yeah.
Like there were a lot of fun ones like that. Silk was kind of interesting. I don't know much about. I guess that they only told so much on this. Um, and even seeing some of the clones was interesting. Like it's hard to pick. I think I really liked seeing, especially the contrast between the Spider-Man who, so like Superior and like Punk Spider-Man, and some of the other ones who are willing to go more all out, like Kane,
Hmm.
who is the other. Um, so yeah, I think seeing the contrast, especially between that, is super fascinating. Where you have kind of like a couple that they're much more ruthless, and then seeing that contrasted with the ones that are more a little closer to typical, where like they don't want to kill anybody, even in the inheritors who are like wiping them out.
Right.
Also really fascinating seeing the like the God Spider-Man. I'm trying to remember which
Oh, the
one.
Captain Universe version. Yeah.
Yes, I was like, what is that? Like that was cool. Um, so yeah, I don't know. There was so many like fun little things. I feels like I could just name them all off. Like to be a ton. But yeah, I think that was my favorite interactions. Was definitely the main contrast between the kind of like edgier Spider-Man, I guess, versus the normal, because the back and forth between them was really cool.
For
Uh,
sure.
yeah, and then like I said, definitely like Ben Parker and also May Parker, the younger girl version.
Oh
I
yeah.
think also had a nice addition. So yeah, That's probably my favorite. So
Let's see. Yeah.
Yes.
As far as like, because I just read this probably for the first time. I just read this a few months ago. I don't know why it took me so long, but yeah, I just never read it. And I was telling somebody earlier, I might have told you, Willow, that like I one of the reasons I don't like One More Day, even just set aside all the retconning and everything, I tend to see Spider-Man as more of a science-based character. And so when you start throwing Mephisto and magic and stuff in there, it's like, I mean, I don't mind a magic thing going on in a Spider-Man story, but when it comes to like
right.
something as crucial as what happens in One More Day, I just felt like there could have been something more, been closer to how the science side of things that could have been done. But whatever.
I'd
Yeah.
rather be a scientific Deus Ex Machina than like an actual
Yes,
Deus Ex
actual Deus,
Machina.
yeah.
Yeah, it's interesting, like how it's because I remember when you mentioned that it didn't. I never really thought about it that way, and maybe that's partly because my experience with comics is mostly through cartoons or things that have been on TV at times. So for me, there's so much overlap that I never really thought about that way. In fact, actually, a lot of times I think I like the Spider-Man versions that don't get too into the sciencey stuff. Like that to me, that almost pulls me out where I'm like, this doesn't feel super integral to the main part of the themes of the character for me. So
Fair.
sometimes when I do
Fair.
that, I almost feel like, oh, he's also got to be a genius, like a little bit. So like sometimes I like when they don't focus on it as much. But it is interesting now that I've seen more of them, more versions. I can see how. But yeah, so that part didn't like the whole like web of fate and stuff. I found super interesting. It was again, I guess some of that stuff coming in from after reading Eternals, where again, like, and I'm still reading Sandman right now. So I think that kind of mystical fantasy mixture is in line with my taste, I guess, of things I tend to like.
Yeah,
So
well, I mean, what I was trying to say was that like I went into it with kind of that mindset of like, this is kind of like some, the spider totems and the web of fate and all that. That's kind of always felt, even before reading it, I was aware of these elements, and it always was like, it doesn't sit right with me. You know what I mean? Just conceptually. But as I read it, I was getting way into it. You know what I mean?
oh, that's cool. Yeah.
Yeah, by the end of it, this is just Spider-Verse is just such a fun story, man. Like I can imagine, I think it was Dan Slott was the overall plotter of the thing, I believe.
Yeah, this was during his long run on Spider-Man.
Yep. But
I just love the fact that it canonized all of the like the outside of comics media Spider-Man, because it canonized the musical Spider-Man. It canonized both Tobey Maguire and Andrew Garfield.
Oh, that's right. Yes,
Spider-Man.
yes. It actually makes a direct reference. I love that. I love that. That was a great panel.
Oh yeah, and my personal favorite, it canonized probably one of the worst versions of Spider-Man.
Japanese Spider-Man.
Yeah, Spider-Man.
Yeah,
had the
fantastic.
giant mecha.
Oh yeah, the mecha was fantastic.
I was in for it.
And that's what I was, as I was reading it, basically probably the moment when you think Leo Pardon's down and out, but then he shows up later on and stuff and he saves the day. Reading that, I was like, I could just picture Dan Slott just sitting there writing this.
Oh yeah,
you know what I mean? Like he's having the time of his life writing this stuff.
Oh no, he was eating it up, and I don't know if anyone knows this. Like we actually have Leopardon as to thank if you are a Power Rangers fan, because that actually
oh yeah, that's right.
That actually normalized mechs in Super Sentai.
Yeah,
that wasn't normally a thing. They usually didn't have giant robots.
That's so unreal to think. Like, how did this get started? Yeah, actually, mechs started mostly with Spider-Man popularized. Like what?
Thanks Spider-Man.
Yeah, I mean it's so interesting. Like, I really liked in some of the I really liked some of the really silly ones in the after the main arc, I guess. Like I know I took some shots. I think of like they were very like, I don't know what version they are, but there was one that was like very over the top, like almost like a chibi, like really cutesy style. And
Oh yeah.
I thought those were like super adorable. Like it was actually kind of funny. Like she had like the she had like the web blood stuff too. But it was
Okay,
making jokes
yeah.
about it, like, oh, this is so icky and gross, and like I was like, this is hilarious. Like I don't like it's just they had these like little fun yeah.
No.
Like some of these ones, like they're just so random. And
Yeah,
I
well,
love
I mean, this one
the
that's from
talking
the
the
Ultimate Spider-Man cartoon, right? This how he would have little, cartoon figures in his imagination
Mhm.
or
I
whatever,
love
right?
that, yeah. And they'd be like, who's he talking to? I
Yeah.
don't know. Like, they're commenting
Also
on
one of my personal favorites because I love that cartoon.
Yeah.
it.
Oh,
Yeah, there's some Captain Universe right there. That's a cool ass panel.
God, that is awesome. I feel like
Yeah.
Dan Slott was at his best.
Yeah, there was a lot of great moments. It just yeah. But yeah, just fun throughout, and then just had these moments where you're just kind of like, they're just really cool. Where you're just kind of like, holy crap, that's badass. What just happened, or so it
Yeah.
kind of hit the whole range of stuff. It still had a couple really like touching moments, but mostly just super fun.
Yeah, I fully agree. It's it's a good time. It's just like well, let me ask you this because it's easy for me to get into stuff like this, and Ernie too, I'm sure, with like multiverse shenanigans and whatnot. Was it
Oh yeah.
difficult for you to follow all the tech, the made up tech jargon and all that?
No, not really. And maybe that's just I don't know if that's because I'm used to certain things, but I think the mix of fantasy and tech with this, like nothing really felt like you had to know what was going on. Or yeah, I don't know. It felt like everything stayed pretty clear.
Mhm.
There was more moments of surprise of like, oh, this is a thing. I mean, heck, the stuff with Superior Spider-Man being Otto was probably one of the more
Oh yeah,
complicated things.
you had
But
no
Yeah.
context for that. Yeah.
Yeah.
but even with that, like that was probably the most complicated thing. But you have more time with that, and so
Mhm.
it's still. I thought that still made sense. Like, yeah, I don't know. So yeah, I thought it was pretty easy to read. So it seems like I think it'd be a great way to like if you just want to be exposed to a bunch of different types to see if anything interests you. Like, oh, that's a cool style, or this is interesting. I don't know. I thought I did a really good job. I never felt really lost. The only part I think in the main arc where I was like, wait, this happened, were a couple things near the end, and it made sense that just to tell through the main arc. But then when you go through the side stories, you kind of see like, oh, that's how they did this thing with the clone facility, or oh, that's how Karn like decided, to come help her, and like this kind of stuff. So there was, but it still made sense. It was just those were the couple moments where I was probably like, wait, what happened? Like,
Yeah.
like
Excuse me?
Uh, Blurred, with when it comes to that, as a matter of fact, I'm just curious. Do you like how they often put the tie-ins for an event like in the back? You know what I mean? Or would you rather them be throughout, chronological throughout the event?
If I had my druthers, they'd be chronological, but I will say, depending on what the story is, if it's something where like the tie-ins don't really matter, I'm perfectly okay with them being in the back.
Yeah.
Like if it's I think probably one of the most egregious offenders of recent memory is King in Black. A
Oh
lot of
yeah.
those tie-ins didn't mean squat. And if you did it there, I'd be perfectly fine with it because all of them had nothing to do with nothing. Like it should have just been Venom, King in Black, Venom, King in Black. That's how the progression should have went. But yeah.
You know what though? Like there, even the ones that weren't necessary to the overall event, there were some badass tie-ins in
There were
throughout there. Black Panther,
Mm-hmm.
freaking, and then the X-Men one. I think that was that the one where Magneto went ham, or was that Empire?
It was right around Empire.
Okay.
Yeah, it was right around. Yeah, because Magneto acted a whole fool right around that point. Like it was just like, dude, what is going on here? I feel like it's the 1980s all over again, and Magneto's just like this monster.
He even put on the old suit and everything. He's like,
yeah, old red and purple. He's like, we're back.
Speaking of putting on a costume to represent, what kind of mood you're in. Getting back in Black. which is the one I read. As you know, we've already discussed how it ends up with One More Day and where that leads to. But and it's kind of interesting that this is such just a great arc, in my opinion. Maybe other people might not enjoy it like I do, but not everybody wants to see Spider-Man out of his element in the way that he is in this arc. But I think it's the perfect balance of taking him out of his comfort zone, way out of his comfort zone.
Oh yeah.
And putting him in a situation where he basically becomes Batman, and almost even crosses the line at a couple of points. So yeah, right here is where we've got Aunt May gets shot. Right here, he straight up throws a Jeep at the sniper, dude.
I remember the first time I saw this, I thought I remember originally thinking this was the spider buggy at first. But then I was like, oh wait, no, it's not Spider Buggy. He would never throw the Spider Buggy.
Which did make an appearance in Spider-Verse, right?
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
I loved Miles' commentary throughout that whole thing, because he just, he ends up in the most wacky scenarios throughout that thing. Miles does.
He's just rounding up all the stuff, and you can tell he's just like, what is this? Like, what is happening?
It's like, why are we doing this? Why is this happening? I don't understand.
Like, I thought I liked being a Spider-Man, but now I don't know.
It's like, you have the weirdest stuff going on. So why can't I be like a legacy to Batman?
Yeah. So as a matter of fact, that kind of fits with, like, in the 80s. It's 80s is pretty universally known with comics fans to be the grim dark era, where characters that had typically been, if not joyous and colorful, they started getting a little darker, and even Spider-Man went through a little bit of that.
Oh
interesting. So like they got dark in the comics, and then we started seeing that like trickle over to films like a decade or two later or something.
Well, yeah, because you had that's where so like in the 80s, that's where you started getting comics like Watchmen,
Dark Knight Returns.
The Dark Knight Returns. Even with Spider-Man, I think it was like around 84, 85, he had just come back from Secret Wars, and he had the black costume, which was then like the alien costume.
Right.
And that's when he started becoming more aggressive. He became like, to the point where like he was technically dating Mary Jane, but he was kind of on the slick, messing around with Black Cat.
Yeah.
He was just becoming this. I mean, he wasn't doing the whole like Peter Parker, Spider-Man 3, the whole dancing.
That's what I exactly envisioned when you said that.
Yeah, it wasn't anything like that, but he did become kind of aggro.
Yeah.
In terms of his, which is kind of why him going back to that costume in Back in Black is so important.
Symbolic, yeah.
Yeah.
He goes, as a matter of fact, first of all, like, the one cool thing about it that's unique is that because everybody knows who he is now at this point, he's going around in his civvies just kicking asses. You know what I mean? Like, he doesn't even care. Look at this blood on the fist and stuff. This is not your typical Spider-Man imagery.
No,
you know what I mean?
He is not friendly or from your neighborhood.
No, look, he says no junk, no jokes, no punches pulled. Yeah. Find that part where he actually, here he goes. He swings over to the old church. I guess that's what it is, old church building or something, where he hid its. Now this is, like you said, it's not the symbiote costume because but he did have like a regular black costume that he hid over here apparently.
Because that one, because Mary Jane was terrified of it. Like,
yeah,
I remember when Venom hit the scene. I remember one time he came home wearing the costume, which was the black, just the regular costume, and it terrified her. Like, she was she was legitimately freaked out about it because she thought it was Venom. So like that, he got rid of that. So actually, I was cool that he actually kept it hanging around.
Yeah, I mean, it's almost like he kind of almost half expected that he might, need to go dark at some point.
Yeah, it's like, oh yeah, don't worry, babe. I totally threw it away.
But I mean, and this is Ron Garney, I believe, but it's some terrific Spider-Man poses and stuff. Man, it's some good stuff.
I feel like he got it. I feel like Ron Garney understood. Like, Spider-Man's supposed to move, or like kind of even the way he poses in like an inhuman way. Like, it's like, no one stands like that. And that's how Spider-Man's supposed to be.
Even still though, like this type of pose right here in particular, compared to your normal Spider-Man. I mean, you're right. No matter what, he always kind of poses in a kind of inhuman type of way. But this seems like more intense than your typical Spidey pose.
Oh yeah, this is almost more of a Venom pose.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He was angry.
He was a bit aggro for sure. He's throws this dude out of a building and catches him at the last minute and stuff. It's yeah.
I just want to point out Gwen Stacy would have died right here. I just want to point that out. If this was Gwen, she'd have been dead.
That's fair.
Oh my god.
That's fair. Yeah, and he just starts hunting fools down, trying to, sorry, ambulance.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, he just starts hunting people down, trying to get leads to, at first he's not quite sure who hired the assassin or whatever, but he figures it out pretty quick. And the thing about it, even though I've read this before, it's been years, but I read it before and then rereading it now as it's going along, and he's, hunting people down and like headbutting their faces in and stuff like that. I was legit feeling like he might kill somebody. You know what I mean? This is Spider-Man. I know he's not gonna kill anybody, but at the same time, and that's the hallmark of a good story right there. When he, Straczynski actually made me feel like, man, Peter, you're going too far, dude. But at the same time, I don't know that I wouldn't. I'd probably go that far too in that situation. So
this is why I believe that Straczynski is not responsible for for as much of One More Day has been led to believe, because everything before it was so good.
Yeah.
Yeah, it sounds like I assumed that, like, if this one was as kind of revered as one of the best, going from this to One More Day must have been quite the shock from what
honestly I don't know how other most people feel about this, to be honest. I just know I love it. I've talked to a few people. Generally, the people I've talked to about it feel similarly about it. But yeah, do you know anything, Ernie, about how it was received? Or
to my recollection, I've never heard anyone say anything bad about it. If anything, there's probably been some people like, "Oh yeah, man, that ain't my Spider-Man." But that's kind of the point.
Yeah,
to me, that's the point. He's not supposed to be your Spider-Man because he's in a moment of vulnerability. He's angry. He's distressed, and that's kind of the point. He's not supposed to be your friendly neighborhood Spider-Man. But that said, I've never heard anyone critique the story saying, "Oh, the story's trash." Like, I think everyone, for the most part, has either felt that it was a very good story, if not an out of character one. But like I said, that's the point. I think at worst, I've heard some people say, "Oh, it's just not for me."
Yeah,
I wonder if that added to, because it feels like if you read that and like it's supposed to be uncomfortable, where you're like, "That's not my Spidey," and then you go to and it's like, "This is not the way you're gonna reset Spidey." You know, what I mean? Like it feels like that would be an extra kind of slap in the face of like, instead of recovering or coping or dealing with what's happened, it's like that's what you end up with. It's like,
hey Willow, I know this runs counter to what we've talked about since the last time, but can you turn your gain down just a little bit, because you start to peak a little bit here and there.
Oh, I'll just try not to move quite, because my gain's pretty down. I think I just moved too close then.
Okay, sorry. It's I mean, right here he finally gets a hold of gets this dude to get Kingpin on the phone. And like I said, Fisk is in prison. Of course, prison for Kingpin is not like prison for anybody else. He's got guards paid off. He's probably got the warden paid off and stuff, and he's still obviously able to order hits and stuff like that. He's not, nothing's much different except his location. And so Spider-Man, and Peter tells him right here, he's like, I just want you to do one thing. You can just die. And that's how that issue ends too. And it's like, oh man, but yeah, so good. Just before we move on real quick, I just want to highlight the absolute best moment of this whole thing. So Fisk knows he's coming. And he's got all this cash stashed away. He tells the guard, hey, I need my stuff. And then, that's another cool panel right there, man. he goes to visit Aunt May one more time to, remember what it's all about. And then he straight up breaks into prison. Peter does. I mean, who breaks into prison?
Right?
Like,
He's like, everybody else is trying to break out. He's like, nah, I'm going in.
and they unlock I forget if it was, no, it wasn't Peter. I think it was the guards did it for him for Fisk. Just lets all the inmates out of their cells. They're like, just, hey, everybody, it's free reign right now. And you see them both here just getting suited up for the confrontation. That's some good panels right there, man. I love it. The anticipation is terrific. Then there's just this confrontation is magnificent. There's a little bit of shit talking. Fisk thinks he's he's got the upper hand here because he's not prepared for what kind of mood Spidey's in. He's just not even prepared. And it's just one of the most epic beatdowns you've ever seen. Fisk doesn't lay a single finger on him. There's just several pages of Spider-Man trouncing his ass, and Fisk, he tries here and there's like, oh, I'm gonna nope.
And actually, that shot right there is one of my personal favorites out of this. Is just because you're legitimately seeing Fisk in a predicament you don't typically see him in, even against like other superpowered heroes. Like he usually gets one hit in, at least minimum. Dude, he gets nothing.
Well, I mean, if we look right here, it looks like Fisk makes about 3 moves right here to Spider-Man's 4 or 5. And none of Fisk's hit, but all of Spider-Man's do.
Yeah,
so that tells you all you need to know.
Oh yeah, he's actually using the full force of his powers in this moment.
That's something a lot of people don't forget about is like Spider-Man has to pull his punches not all the time. If he's just fighting a regular dude or whatever, somebody that's doesn't have super invulnerability, he has to be mindful of that. And it makes him even more impressive as a character, I think, to realize that not only is he doing all the cool moves and stuff that he's doing, but he's constantly got to be thinking, don't hit them too hard because you don't want to put your fist through their head. So he actually takes his mask and his shirt off, and to tell him, he's like, Spider-Man's not going to kill you, I am. And then
Oh, I love it.
Wow.
God,
breaks his nose, trounces him. There's this one page that's just Spider-Man slapping him over and over again. He's just slapping him. Let me find it here. There's some cool lines in here too. He says, at the end of the day, you're just a fat man with an attitude, a balloon just waiting for someone to stick a needle in it. And me, I'm the needle.
You know what it reminds me of? If you ever watched the old, I think it was it 94 animated Spider-Man series?
Oh yeah.
It kind of reminds me of Spider-Man when he had the black suit in that animated series where he was just like chasing the Shocker, just like screaming and yelling and just talking in ways that you're just like, this dude has lost it. That's I remember every time I've seen this comic, I've read the lines in that voice.
Yeah. Well, I love the detail of Garney's art here. Is like, it looks like he's slapping the skin off his face.
It does actually. That right there at the top of the forehead. You're just like, dude, did he just like rip the flesh off him with that? Is he Spider-Man 2099?
Yeah.
With the talons.
Slap, slap, slap. And then all the inmates are just watching. And that's the coolest part of this to me is by the end of it, look right there. Ugh.
Oh, just slaps left and right, dude.
The whole page is slapping.
Jesus.
And then the absolute killer of this whole issue, just his dialogue here. I pour a stream of webbing deep into your throat, your esophagus, all the way down your lungs, filling them completely. The only way to remove it surgically would be to cut out your lungs, which could not possibly be done before you die from lack of oxygen. 1, 2, 3. Look at his eyes, man. Garney hit it right there.
He actually had fear. Like, you don't see Kingpin like scared very often.
No.
God.
Yeah, and of course he doesn't do it. He restrains himself. And the one thing that I guess I would be curious about if I could request anything be different here, is like a little bit of inner monologue of, was he really that close, or was he kind of planning to, go right up to the line and then back off? You know what I mean? That's kind of a mystery to me, I think. Like,
Yeah.
but yeah,
This also reminded me, this is from the time when he actually had the organic
yep.
web shooters.
Because
I forgot about that.
that went away with
Yeah.
One More Day too. That was the other
Yep.
thing that they changed.
That was
Yeah.
like total reset.
Oh, really? So he had the organic web stuff. Okay.
Yeah, like they were trying to, I guess, have parody with
the Raimi films.
with the Raimi films, because like they were kind of, this was about roughly the same time, like as those movies were like, in their the height of their popularity.
Matter of fact, 2007 was when Spider-Man 3 came out, so it makes sense that they were doing him back in the black suit again to kind of
kind of match up.
Yep.
Oh, okay.
I mean, they still do that. They do it all the time nowadays. But yeah, they were still trying to do that back then, like have cross pollination, cross promotion between the imagery and and he just tells them, "I've beaten you," and he leaves them there in front of all these inmates that looked up to him and stuff and feared Kingpin, and he just takes off. You know what I mean? After Kingpin didn't lay a hand on him.
It's like, hey, like, damn, Kingpin, you look like shit. Yeah, you see the other guy, not a scratch on him.
He looks great. He
looks like he just woke up.
But yeah, so good, man. I mean, I get chills just reading those pages still, because it's like you can really feel the intensity, and it makes sense character wise. You don't like to see Peter that way. You don't. It's not comfortable seeing Spider-Man being that way, but it's like, man, you fuck with Aunt May.
I mean, it's Aunt May, man.
Things are gonna happen. So yeah, following up on that, back with One More Day. You said you looked into the editorial stuff that went on a little bit. What'd you find?
Yeah, there was a lot of beef. Joe Quesada primarily seemed to a lot of the reasoning behind One More Day, it was largely all predicated on the fact that Joe Quesada couldn't fathom a world where a guy as nerdy as Peter Parker could get a woman as hot as Mary Jane. And I feel like he was projecting, in my personal opinion. I think he was projecting a little bit. It was basically the situation where it was like, well, why does this matter? Like, why can't Peter? It goes back to the same thing I always say about Peter Parker. Why does he always have to be broke? Why does he always have to be like down on his luck? It's like, no matter how good he has it, someone always has to come along and tear him back down to where it's like, oh, well, hey, you had your own company that rivaled Tony Stark's. Whoop, psych, you're broke again. And you're living with Aunt May. It's like, which I guess in some respects could technically be seen as realistic, but I don't know. Just, it was one of those things where it seemed like such a petty thing to do. It's like, I don't know, Mary Jane and Peter just work. They work together. They're a very good couple, dynamic, and it just seemed really silly to me that, oh yeah, we're just gonna make this whole thing up to get rid of that and take away one of the power couples of comic book lore, just to put Peter back in a place that makes him relatable, like because obviously you can't have a hot girlfriend.
No, I mean, nobody does.
Smart. Nobody has hot. That's it. I don't care who you are. You're not allowed to have a hot girlfriend.
I mean, not if you're buying comic books. No,
of course not. No, of course not.
Yeah, I don't know. I know. Not to say that I agree with One More Day and how it played out, because I don't. But like, I almost I feel like Quesada was onto something, but he just maybe expressed it and formulated it the wrong way, in the sense that, like, these stories go on forever, and it's a fine line to walk, I imagine, to progress a character and what's going on in his life and stuff, but still maintain those elements that made him what he is originally, right? And that's it was down on his luck Parker. There's the whole Parker luck thing. which implies bad luck. And it's you want to maintain kind of one foot in that to a degree, but you also, longtime readers want to see these characters grow and live lives and stuff. But then there's the consideration of new readers, and you want to be able to get them in on a kind of ground level, and it can't be an easy thing for sure. And there's gonna be mistakes made. I just think that this was a lot of unforced errors on Quesada's part.
Yeah.
So
I feel like, it was one of those things that I feel like everybody tries to get that Avengers disassembled moment. Like the story goes to a dark place, and that's like, okay, well, now that that's done, let's go back to being lighthearted. Everybody hits that point. And I as far as it goes, I think J. Michael Straczynski is a fantastic writer. I think if Back in Black didn't prove it to you, I don't know what would.
Right.
Considering how he made that work. But you can definitely tell that if you read One More Day, I wouldn't be shocked if anyone, casual fan or not, if you told them that there was a dispute between two writers or two creatives on the story, I'm pretty sure any of them could tell you probably precisely where it happened just by reading it. Like I would be willing to gamble they would be able to do it. They'd be able to go, oh, here, it's at this page right here.
Do you know offhand whereabouts that might be?
Oh, I'm willing to gamble. It's definitely somewhere probably I would actually say it's probably right towards the end of Amazing Spider-Man. What was it? 544, I believe it was, maybe possibly. But just the second that because I feel like even when Mephisto comes into play, it's not that bad. But I think when the reveal comes in, like, what's at stake? What is it that I need to take from you in order to give you what you want? That, I think, right there was probably the part where they were just like, yeah, this ain't gonna work.
So right about here is probably like right after this, maybe, where he's
probably about right around there, which is sad because this is actually some of the most iconic Mephisto art.
Yeah. I mean,
that I think we've ever seen.
Mary Jane's eyes right here, magnificent, man.
It's perfect. Like everything, the art is perfect. It's like the story is equally as flawed as it is beautiful to look at.
That almost makes it like twice as frustrating, right? Is that there are some positive elements to it, and then there's just all this negative baggage.
You said this came out around the time of Spider-Man 3?
Yes.
Because that feels fitting, I guess. Because I feel like rewatching those recently, I realized like Spider-Man 3 is a lot better than I remembered it. But the things that were bad are like
so bad.
Like there's this clear thing where it's like there's no way this was the creative choice. Like someone forced this choice because it's
is what happened.
Yeah.
Which is exactly what happened.
And it's just really so it just reminded me of that as the way you were describing like getting to this end of this comic, and you could know like this is when things went off the rail, right? It's like
Straczynski was Sam Raimi.
Yeah.
And then I guess just Sony was Joe Quesada. They're like, no, you got to put Venom in here. He's like, I don't want to put Venom in here. He's like, you're doing it. And then that's why you get like Topher Grace is basically that whole thing is an afterthought in that movie.
It's really weird. Well, because like you could even see things where it's like if you wanted to work in Venom, they could have done like because the part that I think actually gets me even more in that movie than Venom. And again, I just my guess is I think Dane, you had guessed probably because he was becoming a bigger star, but like the whole like weird amnesia thing with Harry.
Yeah.
And then forcing MJ to do the thing. It undid like the first half of the movie and stuff where it's like it undid the consequences of him being a jerk. And it was like, oh, now MJ's going to dump him because she's being bribed. She has no agency anymore. And there's just this convenient amnesia for his friend. Like so many things happened at once where I was like, what are you doing right here? Like nothing makes sense
Yeah.
all of a sudden. You're just like, it's like, let's do a hand wave, and we're gonna force all this
yeah.
stuff now.
And Raimi was even very vocal about the fact that he did not like the character of Venom.
Yep.
Like I remember even before it happened, he was like, one of the things he used to emphatically say when people ask is like, is Venom, like I think as late as Spider-Man 2, he would often say like, I do not like Venom. He will not be in my movies.
Yeah, it's also, it's so weird because he also stands out because like every villain in those movies, there's such a great job of like humanizing them. Like that becomes a crucial part of the story. But not Venom. He's just an asshole. Like that's just
he's a
thing.
whiny asshole.
Yeah,
he's a whiny asshole is what he
Which,
is.
to be fair, isn't too different from how he was originally in the comics. I mean, they've done a lot of great character building on him, especially Donny Cates in recent years. But
he's a whole different character than what he used to be. He's way more.
I'm guessing that's why Raimi didn't like him as a character, because
I don't blame him. I don't blame him.
Yeah.
He was a product of the 90s. Venom is a product of like the 80s and the 90s. Dane, just like you said, how everything in the 80s was dark. When you get to the 90s, everything was edgy.
Right. Yeah.
You went from dark to edgy.
Yeah.
And then there was that weird point, like late 80s, early 90s, where everything was dark and edgy.
Dark edgy. Yeah.
It was like, it was just like, it just, oh yeah, we gotta be, we gotta get these kids' attention. The only way we're gonna get it is if we make it edgy.
Oh yeah, here it is right here. You will not consciously remember the bargain or this moment or the life you lived to this point, but there will be a very small part of your soul that will remember, that will know what you lost. And my joy will be in listening to that part of your soul screaming throughout eternity. Yeah, that sounds like probably Quesada wrote that shit.
Yeah, no, Quesada most. I'm willing to gamble. J. Michael Straczynski did not, like, I don't think he touched a stitch of paper that went towards this. I don't think I believe that with every fiber of my being, because he's disowned.
You mean like the whole last issue, or how much are you talking about?
At the very least, this issue.
Okay.
The what was it 545 ASM 545. He is disowned that issue as far as I am aware, from what I've heard. And honestly, I would not blame him. He wasn't crazy about the direction the story went. Like not even a little bit. And
he had been writing on it for some years, right? Like that was how he was forced to end his run on it.
And
wow.
If he would have went out on Back in Black, that would have been an ending.
Yeah.
That would have been a way to cap off, like, all right, cool. Somebody else figure out how to get Peter Parker back on track. Yeah.
Right. Yeah, that would make more sense. Yeah. Wow.
He could have been watching.
Then you're handing this off to someone else too. Yeah.
He could have been watching from the sidelines, like, you sucker.
Yeah.
glad that's not me.
All right, Dan, try and follow this.
I mean, that's a pretty great image right there, though. I mean, just out of context of what's going on, it's some really beautiful artwork.
Well, even the ringing of the bell, because there's like a bell that's tolling. While they're having these final moments. If like that's the thing. And you know what? The more and more I think about it, this literally. It's like if you look at it like when you watch a movie that's like the act 1 is like, oh man, this is really good. And it's like, oh, act 2, oh man, this is going somewhere. Oh man, I'm enjoying this so much. And then you get to act 3 and it's like the big wet fart.
Yeah.
It becomes the big blue light in the sky that the big CGI blue light in the sky that all the superheroes have to come together and beat up. That's what it became, man. Just like it literally, it's like right there. It's almost like it tripped at the finish line. Like it was literally just right there, getting ready to cross the threshold, and just something happened, and they just tripped, fell, and like this is actually this shot right here. Yeah, where Mary Jane, she says the iconic line, "Face it, Tiger, you hit the jackpot," and it's like right as that happens, boom.
Done.
Everything is done. And like when they see each other out in the world, and it's just like you see right here, like every time Peter sees Mary Jane, it's like he knows something's not right. Like he's like, I don't know. I feel like I know her, or like I feel like there's some like, and he can't get it. The one thing I will say, this has nothing to do with One More Day, but everything that came after was when Dan Slott was writing. One of the things that actually pissed me off a lot was how much Dan Slott kept messing with people who were upset about One More Day by introducing the character Jackpot.
Oh yeah. Oh man, I completely forgot about that.
Because she was so if anyone doesn't know who Jackpot is, Jackpot was literally a character who looked like Mary Jane.
What?
She was a superhero who was a redhead who looked exactly like MJ.
Wow.
But she wasn't MJ. You find out later the red hair is a wig.
Wow. Wow. Like, I think like just the way you're describing One More Day, like I think what gets to me is like the fact that, like, for instance, if Peter remembered, like, to me, like story-wise, that almost makes more sense because he's tortured more that way, and you get to actually see him wrestle with the consequences of his actions, which is kind of a big part of Spider-Man. Having to deal with that. But like this is this weird, like, we're gonna remove it, like you don't really know, but we're gonna say technically your soul knows. So you're technically suffering, even though you're not really gonna witness it. And it feels more like a meta thing, like a meta thing where you're like, we're gonna torture the readers, because the character itself doesn't really know what's happening, and that feels really weird, like just the way that's setting up. So the fact that they leaned into that for this Jackpot thing feels like
salt on the wound.
Yeah. Oh, and we didn't, and just to give you an idea. Okay, so Dan Slott, he began writing Spider-Man like in what, 2008, 2009 or something like that.
Sounds about right.
He didn't finish his run till like what almost was like 2018, I think it was. So we didn't, so that means we didn't get Peter Parker and MJ back together until Nick Spencer took over when Dan Slott finished his run.
Yeah.
Because Dan Slott said he would not undo what was done prior.
Yeah.
So,
well, I mean, it seemed like Nick Spencer started out with that as part of his goal. And then how do you feel about, just, a random aside, how do you feel about how that all played out?
Talking about with the Nick Spencer?
Yeah.
The Nick Spencer, it started, I liked it at first. It got really weird though in the middle, and then leading out towards the end. I don't know. I felt like I don't know. It went to a really weird place that I didn't appreciate. Like
the reveal of who Kindred was.
Yeah, everything with the reveal of Kindred, how complicated they tried to make it. All of it, everything with Norman, and
it makes you remember that fucking awful. What was that? Sins Past? What was that called?
That was Sins Past. With the Gwen Stacy kids. I don't need all that. I like, honestly, I'm kind of glad that that story's over. And I honestly don't, and I don't know if this was a conscious choice or not, but Zeb Wells, I believe he's writing Amazing Spider-Man now. I'm actually glad he went with Ben Reilly and kind of took Peter off the shelf. I feel like Peter needs he needs to take a knee for a while.
Yeah.
And even when Peter comes back, I kind of think they should just keep all the Spider-Men active. Yeah, just keep them all active. Just have different titles. Like, you can let Peter be the Amazing Spider-Man. Ben can be the Spectacular Spider-Man. Miles could be Ultimate Spider-Man. You can just have all of them come back. Just have different titles for them, and I'd be perfectly fine with that.
Yeah, I mean, I that's not even. I don't even know if that's controversial at this point. Because, everybody's getting used to the idea of multiple Spider-Man and multiple, lots of legacy characters all around. So, yeah.
I mean, that was one thing that surprised me in Spider-Verse was, what was that? In the 616 or whatever, like, there was a lot of Spider people in the one world. Like, there were different universes. I was just like, wow, I did not know there was like a ton. So yeah, it kind of feels like this is already a thing you've done, where there's lots
Yeah.
of Spider-Man in one setting. So like, yeah, why not?
There's enough that like didn't they killed like how many in Spider-Verse?
A lot or several.
Quite
Yeah.
a bit.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it was like it was at least 2 or 3 dozen. They had enough that they were like, yeah, we
Well,
can spare some of these.
Captain Universe Spider-Man died, I believe, because
Yep.
Mhm.
That was
that was
quick.
the big shock was them showing up and taking him out. So
Yeah, it was a great
it's
moment to show the inheritors weren't really a laughing matter, because it kind of felt like, oh, they're finally going to lose something, and then it was like instant, like just nope. Okay, I guess.
That was that moment where they're like, yeah, no, this is for real.
Welp. All right. Yeah.
Which also made it super cool when Kane started unleashing
Mhm.
some of his stuff later, because like, oh my god, like he's even more unreal. So
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
love it. I love it.
You got assassin Spider-Man who's just like, let's just kill them all,
It's like, yeah, no, just I love it. God, that is just amazing. I'm so into it.
Yeah, it's a fun era. So yeah, you want to explain? Do you like the summary of what's going on? What went on with Spider-Verse? Like, what was the setup of why did it happen?
so yeah, I mean I mean, I guess overall it's like, it's funny because in some ways the story is quite simple, I guess, but in some ways there's just so much going on. So I mean, you have the inheritors, which are basically they're like, dimensional vampires, and they feed on animal totems, especially the spider people, I guess, being the strongest that they feed on. And they have taken over the Master Weaver there. And so they're basically making the Master Weaver do things for them. So it lets them like kind of change. Master Weaver is basically just like, it's kind of like the three fates you see in a lot of fantasy stuff, where they can modify the web to change reality, time and everything, with reality basically. And so they're using the Master Weaver to help them hunt even more efficiently. And then it's basically just a game of survival, where the Spider-Man are, then they're jumping around through dimensions trying to gather people up. And it really jumps right into it. Like, it opens basically with you meet like a really silly version of Spider-Man. It's like a Shakespeare Spider-Man.
Yeah.
It's like the opening, and just starts right off with him getting killed right away, basically by Karn, I think. And yeah. The Soak House was interesting. I'd never seen or heard of Soak before, so I was like, what is this?
Oh yeah, that's a see, that's the thing. That's why I think it's so interesting, because that's a huge retcon character. It's like they literally just like was it Cindy Moon? She literally is like she was one of Peter's classmates.
She was
who
on the
oddly
field
enough,
trip too.
yeah, she's in the MCU is the weirder part. She's actually in the MCU. She's been in She's in Spider-Man Homecoming and and I think she might even be in Far From Home. But I know she's in Homecoming. She's the Asian girl, the one Asian girl in their class. But yeah, the day that he got the spider bite, she was there too. And she also got bit
by the same spider.
Exact same spider.
Okay.
It didn't die when Peter I guess or when it bit him or whatever. They always used to say that it died, but it didn't really die.
But she didn't show up until recently. So Willow, where was she the whole time? Did you pick up on that?
They don't fully. I mean, they do just mention that she was kind of like locked away in a room, basically.
Cocooned up. Yeah, she was cocooned. You know everything. You have not missed a stitch of information in that. She was just locked away.
Yeah. And then the other weird thing is apparently like she just, her pheromones make everyone like super horny that are spider people, apparently.
Just Peter.
Mostly.
Well,
Peter.
that too. Yeah,
but because they were bit by the same spider, so they can't even be in a room together without trying to bang. Like
they do like a weird thing where she's curious if it's gonna make other people horny when she's around them all. And it's like some of them I think react, but not all of them as much as it was kind of weird. It was funny, but like also kind of weird. I was like, what? This is interesting. Yeah, it was cool seeing Kamala too.
I
make an
forgot
appearance.
about that.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
yeah, she was like really excited to get to work with Spider-Man. It was a neat
Oh
little.
yeah.
I love that because he references a movie. She's all excited about like his relationship with Miss Marvel at some point, and so like he
Yeah.
references a move he did with Miss Marvel, so Kamala knows what to do. Because like that's all she knows is like basically the fan moves. I
Oh
guess
yeah.
she follows.
She's a huge Carol Danvers nut.
Well, she would she used to write fanfic right before she
Mhm.
became yeah, that
Yeah,
was her
she used to
thing.
write fanfics and basically I don't know if they still do this now because I haven't read Miss Marvel in a little bit, but I remember like in the earlier runs, she would often kind of do like Deadpool would kind of go in these weird like asides or like you have moments where he's off in his own world. She would do the same thing, but she would just be fangirling about all the things that could possibly happen when she meets other superheroes. It's crazy. It's
You get
funny.
a
I actually
tiny
hope they
taste
keep
of
it
that here.
intact. Okay, yeah, it's something that I really hope they keep intact.
Yeah, they're
For her
like because
TV show.
Spider-Man tries to get her like that. I did really like that because it was like she gets kind of distracted, I think, thinking about it, and like that's how like Spider-Man gets her attention by referencing like the move. Like he kind of uses the fact that she's fangirling to get her attention. So it was a cool little moment, I thought. But yeah, no, yeah. So I mean, that's most of it really. And then along the way, there's the competition between different spiders as far as like how they should handle things. A great moment I think was they like so they end up holding out in this world that basically had like a radioactive fallout, a nuclear fallout, because Ben Parker in that world is Spider-Man and he quit and he just let the world go to
Oh,
hell.
yeah.
And
That was
that
a
was
big
yeah.
surprise for me reading it
Mhm.
too. I had no idea. Like, you finally get to that point and like, oh, somebody's in this vault, and they open the vault and it's Uncle Ben standing there and he's got spider
Mhm.
powers. It's like, what?
Yeah.
This was like, oh, well, what about the great power? What about the great responsibility?
Yeah, and I
He's
loved honestly all of that was really cool because then there was kind of like Peter's like pissed at him like are you kidding me, like everything I do is because of Ben and you just gave up, like what, you let this happen. And and one thing that was really cool was that they're trying to then get him to help and he still doesn't want to help, like he's still completely resigned even with everything going on. And it's actually freaking superior freaking Otto who was able to get through to
Mhm.
him. And I found that kind of fascinating because I found the superior Spider-Man really interesting. Like I don't like that version of Spider-Man obviously, but like I
Mhm.
like him in the sense that there's this weird, it's almost like the only time he does good stuff is because he can like find like a logic rationalization for it. So like in the
Yeah.
moment with Ben Parker, he gives like a rationalization kind of like why we have to try anyways. And it's actually a legitimately inspiring moment. So
yeah.
I found that kind of fascinating. But then like, you could see how like he has no real like moral values. It's really just he can normally rationalize a good thing to do.
His whole motivation is he wants to be Spider-Man, but better than Peter ever was.
Yeah.
And like, and what's
Yeah.
I remember when I wasn't really reading comics much at the time, but I remember when it was announced, that Peter Parker's dead. He's dead, and now Otto Octavius has his body, and now he's Spider-Man. And it was pretty controversial, dude. Like a lot of people were upset about that. But as time went on, there's a lot of value to it. I mean, no, you don't like seeing nobody wants to see Peter Parker dead. Nobody wants to see Otto Octavius just, using his body. But it created an interesting dynamic where, because he not only got his body, he got his memories.
Mhm.
Right.
And that once he got he wasn't expecting that part. His body was dying. So he said, I'm going to steal Peter's body and it'll be awesome. And he does, and it
Mhm.
works, but he didn't
Yeah.
expect to get those memories. And then he gets
Right.
the memories and he gets it. He's like, oh shit, I get why this dude's been doing what he's doing.
Mm.
And now I'm gonna do it, but I'm gonna be better. So that ego kicks in.
Yeah.
And yeah.
I just love the fact that Otto is Spider-Man for like not even 24 hours, and he's already solved one of Spider-Man's biggest weaknesses, and that's doing his Spider-Man thing and actually being able to maintain a social life.
Oh yeah.
Because I think that was like one of the first days, like he was like, "Oh, Peter Parker's terrible at time management. He's like, I'm going to build spider drones and they'll just patrol the city while I go do other stuff. And it's like he's able to go on dates and meet up with his friends and work on other endeavors and junk like that. I think he even beat the pants off the Avengers just when they were trying to figure out why Peter was acting so strange. That was one of those things I was like, dude, I like this Spider-Man. I have a soft spot in my heart for Superior Spider-Man.
It's hard not to like him for some reason. It's it's once he gets going and he starts, I mean, the best thing about it, the unspoken thing, I guess, really about it is that you really understand why Peter Parker being Spider-Man is such an important thing, right? You understand the humanity of Peter Parker and the ethics, and that it's his heart and how he cares for people that really makes him, as he tells Otto toward the end of Spider-Verse, right? He's like, I'm the superior Spider-Man, dude. You know what I mean? And he proves it to him too. So it's more ironic that he actually considers himself the superior Spider-Man, because he's really not.
It's just like that's what's important to him, basically. It's just he has to feel that way and be in control. And that's kind of like, even the end of that is part of it, right? Is like he kind of, I guess, separates off the group in a way, because he knows he realizes one of the other Peters is the future version of him, and that means that Peter must gain control of the body again. And once he deduces that, he's basically like, no, screw this, I don't care what happens now. And it kind of changes, like, where it's like, clearly you're not really in this to survive. Everything is a strategic move, right? Everything is just what makes sense. And so, like, as soon as that happens, he betrays them and is like, screw it, and just like kills the Master Weaver himself. It's like, that you're not controlling my fate now, anything can happen, kind of move.
Yep. And, it's all just ego driven stuff, like yep. But the world has hurt me, I'm gonna hurt it back, kind of thing. It's pretty incredible, just the different dynamics between all of them. I remember being really compelled by.
All the interactions between them is really just great.
I mean, you get Spider-Ham, for Christ's sakes.
Dude, I remember, as I like to, be a hipster about pretty often, I've been into comics so long that I remember I had like an issue of the original Spider-Ham run from back in the 80s or whatever.
Oh, man.
And I remember it was just a goofy ass thing, like nobody took that seriously. It was just like a afterthought thing that Marvel put out. Just, this will be funny. He wasn't part of the universe or anything like that. If you would have told me back then, hey, one day Spider-Ham's going to be a, universally known and loved character and stuff, I'd be like, no, you're lying.
Like, no.
Oh man, I don't know if I grabbed it. He one of his lines I loved in this was, because when they're debating about the whole, like, what you kill people kind of stuff. Spider-Ham is actually like, well, I actually don't know what kills people in this world. Like, in my world, I can just drop an anvil on them.
Yeah.
Like, there's actually a joke about that.
Yeah.
Good stuff.
Spider-Ham peak. What was it? I remember what they used to always have such funny allies. Like I remember, what was it? Cloak and Dagger in the Spider-Ham universe. They were, what was it? It was like Croak and Badger or something like that.
Just all bad puns.
Oh god, it was so bad. It was so bad, but it was so delicious. Delicious.
It's pretty cool that that they were just having fun back in the day, and of course now they've monetized that, and they've made it into its own little element of a franchise. It's which Spider-Man was this? I forget.
Oh man, I'm trying to remember now.
They got them pretty quick. I remember that.
Yeah.
This one didn't last long. It was another one that there was quite a few of them that died like almost instantly. Like, we would go to a random Spider-Man, and then one of the inheritors would show up, and it was just like, nope, you're done.
Spider up or die. It was Spider-Punk is pretty. Is that his name? Spider-Punk?
Yeah, it's like Spider-Punk or something along those lines.
I think I have a shot later with it where it has his big name, where it's like his back, and he's doing like the cool walk away.
Oh yeah,
Or like Spider-Punk. Like,
yeah. I just remember when they came out with the Spider-Man video game on PS4. I was just like, yeah, I'm gonna use this suit for a while.
Mm-hmm. You have to.
I'm gonna
Yes.
use this. This is where I live now.
Here it is. It's right here. Let's see.
Oh
Yep.
god. Yep, there it is. There
Yeah,
you-
I actually remember reading this and being like, wow, they actually had like a straight up anarchists fighting cops thing going on in here.
And they were not kidding. No punches pulled.
Yeah. Yeah, I think he says a line in there somewhere about that too. You can see the ACAB on the bottom there, cut off the screen.
Oh, dude, I love
Oh,
it.
damn. Yeah.
Oh well, you know what? You know what this means.
Canceled.
It's woke.
Yep, it's woke. That's what it means.
Of course.
It's going broke because it's woke.
Now let me check the sales of Spider-Verse real quick, and then
I mean, it only spawned off a movie.
$1 million movie, $1 billion movie almost.
Easily, probably the best Spider-Man movie ever made.
But I actually would be curious because I mean I have no context for like how this was overall though. But like I said, the for me it's funny because all the Spider-Man are great and stuff, and like the Ben Parker moment was great. But like honestly, for me, the ending with Karn is what put it way over the top for me. Where I was like, this was really good, and then that ending because it added to. So I guess to spoil the ending here, but like so Karn has been basically he's one of the inheritors who has been outcast for like centuries at this point. So he's just he has to wear a mask like this, like it looks like one of those scuba diving masks, the old fashioned ones. Yeah, there you go. So he's had to basically wander around for hundreds of years, killing Spider-Man in hopes that eventually his family will take him back. And it's all because at one point when they first went to take control of the Master Weaver, he was there and he hesitated because the Master Weaver looked at him and basically was like, you don't want to destroy like your family does, you like to create. And it made him hesitate for a second, and when he did that, the Master Weaver was able to cut another thread and he killed his mother. So the whole family blamed him for the mother's death and outcast him. And so it ends with Karn is the one who kind of turns the tide. Some of the spiders like recruit him, and in the fight with him, they're kind of revealing the like kind of abusive logic his family's put on him, where it's like, he's like, no, I have to eat animal totems to survive, and they're like, who told you that? Like the same family who's treated you like shit, and why would you believe them? And it's enough to make him question, and he goes back and helps turn the tide, and then when the Master Weaver is killed, you find out that the Master Weaver was Karn.
Was Karn, yeah.
The whole time. And I just found that it was just so beautiful, I guess, like, and poetic, the way that was done, where you had this, family member who was outcast and literally kind of still serving them, like just like what had been normalized, I guess. And then being freed from that and find out that like even the Master Weaver, who is just, tweaking the strings a little bit here and there to help make things go right so that inheritors would fall, that was also Karn. And it also kind of lends into the whole, like, anyone could be Spider-Man, right? Another person who was behind a mask who, I don't know, it was such a beautiful wrap up for the series. Like I was really impressed by that kind of reveal, I guess.
At the same time too, it also highlights, why Spider-Man, no matter which one, unless we're talking about probably superior, why they are special, because they decided we're gonna show this guy some empathy. We're gonna, like this panel right here, and let us help you take the first step. And it takes, not all heroes would do that with the immortal energy vampires that are going around trying to kill him. You know what I mean? So
yeah,
precisely.
Yeah, I mean, even the end, actually, they don't. At the end, they don't actually kill the inheritors. At the end, they lock them up in the facility on the nuclear wasteland because they can't survive out there. So they're stuck in the building, and they're stuck, basically left to eat off like little tiny mutant spiders. So they're not even like leaving them to die. They actually kind of left them just in prison, basically, which was kind of interesting. Like even them, they didn't want to. They weren't going to like focus on killing them. I mean, Kane did manage to kill a couple of them, but Kane was a little bit different of the Spider-Man. He was.
Kane's another kind of breed of thing. Yeah, he's got a specific.
Yeah, I don't know what his deal is at all, other than he's clearly super badass because he took out the inheritor,
the father one, right?
Yeah, what was
the
patriarch? What was his name? The father was
I forget his name. Yeah.
It's sort of an S.
So was it Solus?
Solus.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Or Solus or Solus, something like that.
Because Solus was the one who showed up to stop, the god Spider-Man, and then Kane shows up and turns into like this monster spider and just instantly kills Solus. So you're kind of like, oh damn.
It's like, oh shit. It's like, oh, this guy's for real.
Yeah. That's pretty badass panel right there.
Oh yeah, no, and the way, honestly, the way Solus kills him was pretty scary too, because it was just kind of like basically he just feeds on the energy, so it's kind of like he literally can take infinite energy. Like the other inheritors couldn't do it and they would die, but Solus was able to just eat forever, just eat all the energy, which basically just tapped him out.
Dude. God.
So what is this? Who was the artist of this? Was Giuseppe? I can't say his last name, but
I remember who.
I'm trying to remember.
I know me. I will butcher the hell out of the name. I'm not above it.
Kamankulo, or
Kamankoli, something like that. Yeah, I would jack that name up. Yep, that is precisely what would have happened. Just right there, I would have jacked that name up.
Oh yeah, right. this right here, that's where Solus kills. You think, oh shit, Captain Universe, Spider-Man's about to get him,
and that's like a very powerful version. Like Captain Universe is like,
yeah.
Like he literally is the ultimate Deus Ex Machina. It's like, oh yeah, here you go, boom.
Yeah, they actually show. So just before this moment, a bunch of the inheritors had attacked, and he basically like instantly kills them all. Like, so I mean, they've just shown like how ridiculous he is and why they're not going there.
Dude.
And then Solus is like, all right, I guess I'll have to take care of this because my children are useless or something, and he just goes and.
All right. Well, just to round things off here, we'll go through and like basically what were your overall thoughts, and would you recommend what you read to either a new reader or just someone who hasn't read it before? And I guess I'm first. I would say that I would definitely recommend Spider-Man Back in Black. Not if it's your first Spider-Man comic necessarily, but if you wanted to read Civil War and maybe the Spider-Man tie-ins through Civil War and get that context and then move on to Back in Black, I'd recommend that for sure. And then what comes next, that's up to Ernie. What do you
I mean, brutal honesty, I would say if you are a new comic fan and you're like, I want to get into Spider-Man, I would say there are better places for you to start. I would not. I would literally tell you no. If I actually saw you in a comic book shop, if I saw you holding a trade paperback,
first comic I've ever bought.
Yeah, I would walk up to you. I'd slap it out of your hand, and then I would pick it up off the floor, and whoever is the clerk who is selling this to you, I would slap them with the comic and say, why would you do this?
How dare you, sir?
And I would just throw it on the ground and just and say, and I would lead them over to greener pastures for Spider-Man. But if you are someone who is already like well-versed in comics, but you just never read One More Day, I would say honestly, just if for no other reason than the fact that it would help you appreciate some things that come after that much more, because you'd realize, wow, we actually can get better writers for Spider-Man. I would say, just if you just absolutely positively have to, sure, go ahead, take the plunge. But if you're a new reader, I'd stay away.
Fair. Again, I really appreciate you taking a hit for that one, man.
I did it for the people.
Yeah, Willow, Spider-Verse. Yeah, for I guess in regards to people who I think most people have seen Into the Spider-Verse. So would you maybe
Yeah.
suggest that as far as if you want to know more about that type of Spider-Man story?
Yeah. I mean, I definitely think. I mean, I'll say so. Outside of the movies and the cartoons way back kind of thing. I mean, I read a little bit of the start of which Spider-Man. I mean, so I've basically not touched any Spider-Man comics other than a tiny bit before this one.
Mm.
Um, I also read that one Generations volume that had Miles and Peter Parker
Yeah.
way back. So I had very little exposure, and it was great. So I could easily see like everyone knows who Spider-Man is. Like even if you don't know much about him, um, I could easily see diving into this. I don't think you really need to know other than the basic gist of who Spider-Man is and who the responsibility and all that. I don't think you really need to know much else to go through this.
Mhm.
There's definitely some weird stuff. I'm sure it probably adds a lot more if you know all these other characters. I'm sure there's a ton of stuff I'm missing. Of like little jokes. And okay, like for instance, I did happen to know about the I think I'd seen a couple episodes at least of the Ultimate Spider-Man or the one where he talks to the screen. That's all those little in jokes. So I do think there's probably tons of in jokes that I didn't get because I don't have the other context. But
Like Japanese Spider-Man saying he's an emissary of hell and stuff like
Ah,
that.
I love it.
yeah, yeah. You know what? Actually, I guess I forgot. I did watch one what was it? The 616 thing they have in
Oh
Disney
yeah.
Plus. So I actually did watch the one episode about the Japanese Spider-Man way back. And so I
Oh,
actually did have a little bit of context for that. But
so
yeah,
good.
so even without that though, like which I do recommend. That was actually a fascinating uh history on that. But yeah, so I don't know. I love these kind of things, I think, because it feels like they give you a taste of lots of stuff. You don't really need to know too much. It was a great story. It's definitely long, I guess, if you're gonna like that would be the biggest thing. It was a lot.
Mhm.
But it was super fun. Great story, easy to follow, and I personally like those kind of things where I know that as I explore other stuff like the movies and anything, I it's one of those things I feel like I read this, and now that I read this, I'm gonna have a lot of moments to go, that's what they were doing back there. Because
Mm.
I'm sure there's like a ton of Easter eggs and things that were over my head. But I like diving into that kind of stuff sometimes. So I don't know. It was like a good
Well,
mix for me.
to be fair, I know a lot about Spider-Man and I know who a lot of those versions are, but I'm certain there was stuff that I have no experience or context for as I was reading it. So, it's just so packed full of Spider-Man lore that you'd have to be pretty
Mhm.
much an intentional expert of Spider-Man to know all that stuff. But
Yeah, which I think is fun. It's like there's a lot of layers here, but you don't need all that to just enjoy this. So
cool. Yeah, you guys want to talk about your channels, any projects you got going on, Ernie?
Oh yeah, well, I am the Blur Without Fear, and I run the Blur Without Fear YouTube channel, where I basically talk about comics, much like what we're doing right now. I deep dive into them, break them down. I do character breakdowns, team breakdowns, all sorts of stuff. Try to poke and point you in the direction of the connections, deeper connections to previous comics, and maybe even some of the stuff that's happening outside of comics that has to do with the ones I'm looking at, and I live stream every Saturday. So was it 1 p.m. Eastern, 10 a.m. Pacific? So there you go.
Right, Willow.
yeah, I make video essays over on Questing Refuge on YouTube. Mostly just popular media, but I've definitely hit a number of the comic stuff, and I definitely plan on talking about Spider-Man and some other things some more. I've already hit Spider-Verse and Miles, and so I'm sure I'll probably be hitting them some more. And I tend to probably talk about I guess like children's rights, parenting, disability, and stuff like that. Tend to be themes that come up, but I'll really talk about pretty much whatever. Yeah. So
And you both do it exceedingly well. I'll say that. It's an honor to have you both on. Really appreciate y'all taking the time to read and discuss with me. I of course am Dane. Please subscribe if you're not already, and there'll be links to both of these guys' channels down below and probably up in the corner box there. Thank you very much, and yeah, looking forward to No Way Home.